Alright, so that's it. Portal 1 finished. And there's the cake, as you can see. So what is there to say about this game? Portal was, and I guess it still is, generally considered to be one of the best puzzle games ever. So what did it have? It has a funny story, interesting character, GLaDOS, and I think the important things to remember are just how long the game took to start getting complicated. Like, it took a long time to introduce you to each of the elements, the puzzle elements, and then progressively step up the difficulty. And they did it really gradually, so that you learn the ideas behind the game one step at a time, and it gave you a lot of time to figure it out. And remember the consistent visual language. I talked about that from the very start. The white backgrounds with the grid to help you, locate where to put the portals. Oh look, companion cube. And also the bright colors indicating the important stuff. So the button is a bright red. You have the lines leading to the circular doors, which, the circular door is a contrast to the square grid that the rooms usually were in. You have the blue lines and orange lines, blue portal, orange portal. So all the important stuff was in bright colors, and those were consistent throughout the game. So all the buttons look the same, all the portals look the same, all the doors look the same, and then there were the symbols, pointing out where the exit was, pointing out when there's a cube in the level, when there's the energy pellets, when there's turrets, when there's water. So they give you a lot of clues. The numbers are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember the 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dots, and 4 dots. Basically telling you the sequence that you need to take to solve the puzzles, especially early on. So really, for most of the game, they're basically holding your hand through the puzzles. And obviously, when you they do it subtly. And obviously, GLaDOS also told you sometimes what to do. Like, you need to get to the end of the room. Well, I don't remember the exact words now. You can go back and watch the videos, I guess. Like, in some instances, GLaDOS will tell you what to do. In some instances, the symbols will tell you what to do. In some instances, there really wasn't anything else to do except with the portals in specific places. So, in one way or another, they guide you through the early puzzles to teach you all of the things that you need to know. And then, after they've done all that, basically in the last maybe 3 test chambers, and maybe like 1 or 2 test chambers before that, but mostly in the last 3, if I remember right, they take away the clues. And they just give you the puzzle. But by that point, basically everyone who's played the game will have been so familiar with the puzzles by that point that they could just do it. I mean, obviously there's some thinking involved still, like, getting rid of turrets, or, where to fling yourself and things like that. So it's not completely, blindfolded, straightforward, anyone can do it kind of thing. Well, anyone can do it, but not automatically. You still have to think a little bit about it, but they've taught you all of the tricks. And then there was the plot twist, right? And then you escape, quote unquote escape. And then you go to the back areas, and in fact they did the same thing again after that point. They kind of dialed back on the complexity of the puzzles completely. And for the first, I don't know how long it's been now. I'm at it. And you can't use test chambers anymore, but for maybe the first third of that, there weren't really any puzzles. It was just you figuring out that you can only put the portals on the white walls, and then you're looking for the white wall to put the portal to get over a few obstacles. So basically you go right back to the start and learn movement again. Except this time it's movement through the service areas instead of movement through the test chambers. And then they gradually stepped up the difficulty or the complexity again. You start flinging yourself, you start doing tricks. And then you get the ambushes with the turrets, and I guess there's some moving parts as well, the pistons and the moving puzzles and all that. So you went right back, and then they stepped up the difficulty gradually, a little bit at a time, and then towards the second half of the service areas that you start getting clues again. You get the painted symbols on the walls telling you where the exit is, and I guess that's necessary because those are kind of complicated. And again, I've talked about testing and Valve is famous for doing a lot of testing for the playability of the game, making sure that everyone who plays the game has fun playing with it and enjoys it. So if something is in the game, you can almost be sure that it's because they've tested it and they know that it helps make the game better for most people. Anyway, so there's that, and then there's the boss fight. There's actually not too many clues in the boss fight neither, although there's also not much else other that you can do other than to put the cores, the personality cores into the incinerator. Like at first nothing happens. Until you put the first core into the incinerator, nothing happens. GLaDOS just talks to you. And then once you put the first core in, then she brings out the turret. And then she doesn't really tell you, or the game doesn't really tell you that you have to hit her with the rocket. But I remember, the first time I played it, I figured it out. And I managed to finish the boss fight before the timer ran out. So, at that point, I'm not really sure how that works, but again, it's one of those things where if you test the game, and as I said this before, if you give the game to 100 people, and 90% of them are able to figure it out, then you don't really question how they figured it out. You just say this works, like this is gonna work. And if 95% of them say it was fun, you don't question. Or maybe you question and you ask them why they have fun, but ultimately it doesn't really matter if they have fun, right? As long as you're sure that people who play your game are gonna have fun, that's fine. You might want to understand why, so that when you design other games, you're doing a better job at it. But anyway, so I don't really understand how people would figure out that you need to hit GLaDOS with the rocket, but you do, and then that's how you finish the game. What else is there to say? I guess it's a good idea to watch this, and also to watch my Call of Cthulhu playthrough, because that's a bad puzzle game. The story in that was really interesting, but the puzzles, most of the puzzles were really bad. And if you compare the puzzles there with here, the puzzle in that game, you were never, like the logic of those puzzles, for most of them were never explained to you. For a lot of them, you were looking for some really obscure clues in really big environments. Like it's not clear where you're going, they never tell you where you're supposed to go, almost. And towards the end, it was so obscure that I just had to look up game facts. I just had to look it up on the internet, how to get past it, because like there's specific things that you need to do to solve the puzzle, but there's absolutely no clues at all. And it's not even logical. You're somewhere under the ocean fighting giant fish people. Like there's nothing logical about that, right? So it's not like you can bring in real world knowledge to figure out the puzzles. There's nothing like that. It's just completely obscure. And I call that bad puzzle design because one, it's not fun. Like the save points are ridiculous. If you die or do something wrong, you have to redo a lot of really painful things, really boring things to get back to the point where you were. And then the puzzles make no sense. Anyway, I don't know if I would recommend you play the game. If you are really brave, you might want to play through it just to really experience it, and I would highly recommend you play this game, although by now I would have spoiled everything for you. Anyway, I think I should stop talking now. I can probably go on for quite a bit longer, but just to compare between other areas where I've said games were bad, and every time you say a game is bad, it's just, you don't really want to do that because it's negative, and then sometimes it's not helpful, but I think, well, for me at least, I don't know if you guys think about this as much as I do, but understanding what's bad and understanding what's good, I think really helps you understand games better. And if you happen to be a game designer, or you want to be a game designer, then I think this is quite important to, not just give games a pass because you don't want to say that they're bad, you don't want to be negative. I mean, you got to be honest about it. Some games are better than others. And this game is good. Some of the other games I played are not so good, and it's always worthwhile to learn from them. Anyway, I guess I really should stop here. I will do Portal 2 as well, but I don't know how well my computer will perform. I might have to turn down the graphics and all that. But anyway, Portal 2 I guess will come fairly soon, because I want to see how Portal 2 extends on the mechanics introduced in the first game. Alright, I guess I'll see you guys in the next playthrough.